want to so let's talk about this. So this is a dietitian, I think, registered dietitian from Canada that does some stuff with sports athletes. She's a pretty, I think, ideologic vegan or plant-based person. And surprise, surprise, she wants to engage in nutritional fascism. She can't wait for the day when nutritional misinformation will be stomped out by this idiot Kevin Bass, who's also a freaking idiot. But, they want to shut down the debate because they're tired of getting their asses kicked. They're tired of losing. They're tired of people presenting arguments that don't match up with their ideology, right? So we're gonna tell people that, no, you're not allowed to talk because we control all the information. What we say goes.
So in this video, Dr. Baker calls me an idiot and a fucking idiot. He implies that I want to shut down all discussion about nutrition, which is absolutely false. He also implies that I'm a vegan. I'm not a vegan. I'm not a vegan at all. But he doesn't care because he's trying to take pot shots and to polarize, and that's his rhetorical angle because that helps him to sell more stuff. A few things about that. Later on in the video, he talks about two studies. One, the first study where you see a decrease in insulin sensitivity and a higher post-glycemic spike whenever you eat a carbohydrate meal, whenever you have been on a high-fat diet for 4 weeks, compared to a high-sugar diet. And the other about carbohydrate-restricted diets in general. Two things. The first one, he totally misinterprets. It's extremely clear. Many studies have shown this, that a higher fat diet, once the body becomes accustomed to a higher fat diet, becomes accustomed to burning fat over carbohydrate, the body handles carbohydrate worse. Transiently, maybe for several days afterward. It actually downregulates the glucose burning machinery and upregulates the fat burning machinery. So you end up with higher post-glycemic spikes, and it's a well-established phenomenon. The fact that he's criticizing this study shows he's not familiar with the literature, and he's, at least on this particular study, incompetent to talk about it, although he acts like he's incredibly confident and competent, which he's absolutely not, which is indicative of the way he acts about a lot of different things, not just this one study. The second study he talks about is a study where they restrict carbohydrates and they see many changes in blood markers of biomarkers of disease, basically. And the interesting thing about the study is that you actually get a lot more PUFAs and MUFAs in the carbohydrate-restricted diet. It's actually a very healthy carbohydrate-restricted diet. And that actually accounts for the most, or maybe even perhaps all, of the changes on this diet. And the interesting thing is that the carnivore diet that he promotes doesn't have these characteristics, and you won't see these benefits nearly as much. And it's not the carbohydrate restriction, but actually the improvement in fatty acid composition, which is not going to be seen on a carnivore diet. Carnivore diet will be seen on a predominantly plant-based, low-carb diet, which is completely possible and people do all the time. You can check out my friend Ethan Weiss's company, where he promotes and offers education on a more plant-predominant, fish-predominant, low-carb diet. And this is responsible for those positive effects. And Baker doesn't seem to know this. So again, both of those studies he's incompetent about. So in this introduction that I included here in this video, you can see that he says that the reason that we want to quote-unquote shut him down is because he keeps winning all the time. It was just hilarious because in this whole video, it's loss after loss. And I don't want to shut him down anyway. I want to bring attention to the type of misinformation that Dr. Baker promotes frequently. And I use the word doctor. Technically, he's a doctor, but he can't operate except under supervision of a competent surgeon because he was deemed incompetent by medical boards. And he actually has to operate for a certain period of time under a senior surgeon in order to continue practicing medicine. So he doesn't actually continue practicing medicine, to my knowledge, because of that. He's basically like a resident now, somebody who just finished medical school in terms of the way that the state boards regard his competence. So I call him Dr. Baker, but he hasn't done very well as a doctor, which is part of the reason why he had to found the MeatRx and do the whole social media thing as an alternative way to make money, because he wasn't able to make money as a doctor because he lost his license. Okay, but I use the word doctor loosely, but he loses over and over and over again in this video. So what I want to do is, since he thinks that he wins, he thinks that we want to shut him down, which I don't. I just want to bring attention to his kind of misinformation and talk about what we need to do about it. But since he thinks that he wins over and over and over again, even though he does not, absolutely does not, he loses over and over again. Not only has he lost in this particular video, but he lost all the time on Twitter saying things that are completely wrong, and that's why he got removed. By the way, I think it's great that he got removed in the sense that it's good that people are no longer exposed to his BS, but I think it's not good that we don't have accountable processes for this. We need accountable processes for this. We need transparent and accountable processes for talking about what health misinformation is, because if we don't, there's a high risk of abuse. And in Dr. Baker's case, there was no abuse because he's incompetent and he's terrible with the science. There was no abuse, but there is a huge risk of abuse. So I don't endorse the means by which Dr. Baker was removed, but I endorse the fact that he was removed because he needs to be removed. And we need better mechanisms and better processes for removing people like Dr. Baker that are accountable and transparent. Okay, but that said, loses over and over again on Twitter, loses in this video, but I also want to offer a debate opportunity to him, a live debate opportunity, where we talk about these studies and some other studies of his and my choice. We can see how good he is talking about them. It's not going to go well for him. Live debate opportunity. We can talk about pretty much anything. I want to do it with Dr. Baker. We want to see if he wins and wins and wins over and over again, or in fact, as I'm claiming, he loses and loses, and that's why he was removed from social media. And he'll lose again against me. The second thing, I noticed that Dr. Baker is training jiu-jitsu on his Instagram. So let's have a match. He promotes himself as an athletic, a great record holder, and he angles many shots for social media, photo shots, to make it appear that he's incredibly fit, which he's not. He's absolutely not. And those are manipulated. But since he says he's a winner in every single respect, and I'm, by the way, a fucking idiot. I'm a fucking idiot, according to him. He's a winner in every respect. Let's do a debate after I just beat you on these two studies. Let's do a debate, and then let's also do a jiu-jitsu match too, and I'll put you to sleep. And it'll be, of course, completely by the rules, completely civilized. We'll have people standing by to make sure that Dr. Baker doesn't lose his shit when I'm about to beat him. And then we'll see which of us is winning and winning and winning, and which of us is losing and losing and losing. Because he was removed by Twitter. He can't win a single time in this video. He'd get destroyed in a debate, and he'd get destroyed physically as well, according to IBJJF rule set. Or we could do a no-gi, some other no-gi rule set. He'd lose in every single way imaginable to me. Because that's the kind of person he is. The kind of person who loses his license, the kind of person who loses his access to Twitter, the kind of person who says a bunch of fake stuff on videos, the kind of person who would lose in a debate, the kind of person who would lose in a jiu-jitsu match. That's the kind of man that Dr. Baker is, coming from this fucking idiot. A few more things before we end this video. First thing, I actually responded to Nancy and said that I didn't believe that what she was calling out was misinformation. Dr. Baker left that out. Second thing, the reason I don't want to do any striking for a match with Dr. Baker is because I don't want to get hit in the head and end up like him. Third thing, we also need drug testing before the match. First for testosterone and second for luteinizing hormone. He recently had a video where he showed that his testosterone levels were normalizing, they were increasing. Because a couple years back he had a video showing that he was hypogonadal, maybe even at the upper end of the range for women, which indicates either some sort of strange biological defect or some sort of strange, maybe potentially drug use problem. But it's unclear because we don't have the context. So he has to have his testosterone levels checked and his luteinizing hormones checked to make sure that he's not, that there's nothing abnormal about his testosterone levels. And something's very interesting as well. Whenever he was making all those records for the Concept 2 and rowing, I actually went back and looked at those for the year where he had the world record, and then all the subsequent years. It's very interesting. His scores kept really dramatically declining, meaning his times kept dramatically getting worse year after year after he broke those records. And then recently he's had some interesting pictures taken whenever he's not had a manipulated angle on Instagram to suggest that his body composition might not be that great. It's very interesting to think that maybe he might have peaked at some point a few years ago in terms of his body composition, had really, 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 really low testosterone levels, had these testosterone levels slowly rebound while his body composition is getting progressively worse. It's an interesting thing. And I just want to request, if we do a jiu-jitsu match, that we're both drug tested beforehand, because I think that would be, well, I mean, it's how the jiu-jitsu matches are done these days. It's how the big tournaments are drug tested. So something I want to insist on. So those three things: I wasn't agreeing with Nancy. I don't want to do any striking because I don't want to become like Shawn Baker, and it's got to be drug tested. Oh, and darn, I just forgot. There's one other thing I would like to mention. Very early on in Dr. Baker's career, when he first started blowing up on social media, he blocked me. So it's very interesting how he claims he's been winning again and again when he's never actually allowed for criticism from his opponents and from the people who think he's full of crap. He's never actually allowed it. So of course he can claim that he's been winning again and again and again when he's never actually been challenged. So for just this once, I wonder if Shawn Baker will allow himself to actually be challenged and not run away like a coward. I don't have great hopes for this, and I'm pretty sure he won't, and he will run away. Thanks for watching.